Ja.
Okay. Thank you very much
Zo
for
grappig.
coming to
Mensen
our
maken ook
panel.
foto's van
Just
ons.
give me a sign. Just give me a sign that you can hear me
Yeah, yeah.
properly, just to be sure. Okay,
Yeah.
now you can hear me. Amazing. So thank you very much. So I hope you are excited as I'm excited to lead this conversation, because this panel unites women professionals and executives in the field of the research, and today we're going to discuss the tension between the humanity and technology. And hopefully we will have very energizing and engaging conversation, and maybe we will come to the conclusion, to the answer, and to the biggest question, whether the technology will take over or the research professional will stay unavailable. So first we will start from the introduction. I hope that you can hear us well. So I never trust the technology just in case. So show me any reaction so you can hear me. Amazing. Thank you very much. So these ladies have an extensive experience in diverse fields, and I would like them to introduce themselves. And to make it a little bit spicy, I would like to ask you very little question, very one line when you introduce yourself. What makes you to be obsessed about insights, or what makes you to be concerned, or how do you feel about insights? Whatever better fits you. And we will start with you.
Hi, my name is Esther de Roy. I'm the owner of Qualmedic, and we specialize in healthcare research in the Netherlands and Belgium. My obsession is actually educate a client, if I talk really specific for healthcare, and honesty and towards client and respondent.
Fantastic. So pass it over.
Hi, my name is Sylvie. I'm the founder of a kids and youth market research agency in the Netherlands. I see it as my personal purpose to bring more understanding in the world, and what's better to start with youth. Because I believe that in understanding each other better, there is more love and we can make a better world. My obsession, of course, is on the youth, because that's where it all starts. The next generation is our future.
My name is Alina Hallinan. Oh, sorry. Can you not hear me? That's not where you're waving. I am a behavioral scientist, and I've been working in research for 15 years. And I have actually, I think this is the 10 years of going to my first ESOMAR conference. So I've been going to these for a few years. What I'm obsessed about is human behavior, obviously, but I'm a little bit biased. But I am concerned about our industry. Like, I love research as a profession, absolutely love it, but I'm not always sure whether our industry gets it quite right and on the right path. But that's what we're to talk about here. So I'll pass it on to you. Oh, you've got yours.
I have my own. Hello, I'm Linda Elisha, and I'm the Managing Director of Emitech. And we facilitate data collection. We provide the leading the leading predictive dialer into the market research industry, and also software for managing CATI and CAPI teams. Now, obsession, I find, is a bit of a strange word to use. There aren't many things I'm actually obsessed with, but I've always gravitated towards people with inquiring minds that like asking questions. So it was almost inevitable that I'd end up in the research industry, which exists to ask questions. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great answer. So to ask questions, especially in our profession, is very important. And with that, I would like to move to the first part of our conversation. And we again starts with the tension, quality over speed. And obviously, with the growth of the technology, sometimes we go to the more agile solutions that are much faster, but we need to think about what we allowing ourselves to sacrifice with, like would it be quality and to what extent? And Elina, maybe you will start the conversation?
Sure. So, as I said, I've been coming to market research conferences for a good 10 years, so what I say, my perspective is based on that. And I think what really concerns me is that innovation in our industry is often focused on sort of short-term gains, and not a lot of thought is typically given to second-order effects. So we have had the same conversation about speed and price for a decade. And when I joined the industry, it was the start of online research. So early that it was like a USP for a company to do online research. And the conversation back then was exactly the same as it is now, that we will get more time to think. We didn't really get more time to think. Initially, maybe we had more time to do the thinking and the strategy and so on, but what happens with new technology, it shifts expectations. And over the course of years, timelines have shortened, and the expectation is that we're going to do, the expectation is that we can turn around research in 24 hours. How much thinking have you actually done in 24 hours when, if you can just get it that quickly, versus 15 years ago when you did pen and paper, you really needed to think, what are you going to put in, because you could not change it. And so, there's, I think that's one of the problems. And then when the other part that I find really, really sort of concerning is that when we are adopting new technology, there's a risk that we do that without really questioning the sort of underlying assumptions and the methodological soundness. My former agency, our sort of thing was implicit tools and implicit methods, and in 8 years that I was working there, running there, I can maybe remember 5 clients who asked more detailed questions about the methodology. Now, should I have questions? Maybe, I think it would have been nice. And we have the same risk of doing that with AI, that we don't really have the energy or interest, whatever that may be, to engage with the assumptions and how that's built in. What that means is that we will just potentially embed more bias into it without thinking about it. Now, I want to give you another example, just so it doesn't sound like a complaint, but let's just really take a step back. Everyone knows BMI, but do you know that BMI was invented 200 years ago by a mathematician? No knowledge at all about human physiology, none whatsoever. 200 years later, we're still using it, but the problem is that it makes no sense. It physically makes no sense, and it's actually like mathematical snake oil. They originally said, that person said, we should not use this for individuals. Now, here's the problem. 200 years later, most people don't know that. We have the same question, same challenge. What happens when we have generations of researchers who don't remember the basics of our industry? They've never seen it. They've never seen what we have to do. I'm not saying we should go back to pen and paper, but if we don't know the foundations of what we do, that's just as big a problem as the BMI that the American Medical Association now says we should really not use it on its own because it's very discriminating and it's really not very good on its own, but it's still used. And then that leads to loss of skills. We are losing skills already from what we used to have. And I think those are really the biggest issues, because if you think, another example for outside our world is microwaves. Many, many years ago, decades ago, technological innovations were for women to say, well, here's some innovations, they'll give you more time. Other question, do we actually have more time? Not sure, but the second order effects is highly processed food. And then third order effect, loss of skills in cooking. So just to give you an analogy that's a bit easier than thinking about AI that is so nice and flashy, I think these are the big risks that we have. I'm not against it, I'm not against AI at all, but there we go.
Representing Electrolux here today, we can talk a lot about cooking. But then it's obviously not the point of the conversation today. So I think that you elevated the tension to the next level, because the importance of the behavioral science is essential, but at the same time, the time is the new currency. So going to the next question that I would like to address to you, Sylvie, what rules and standards can be overlooked in the name of efficacy?
Yeah, so it all depends on how you look at standards. Like in our industry, standards often are related to guidelines on privacy or guidelines on the golden standard in sampling, etc. For me, as an explorative researcher, I have 2 standards, which is love and life. I'll explain them a little bit. The standard of love for me is that when you engage with a respondent or a group or your target group, it is so fucking important to really understand them. And I think that our human machine here, which is also something that you can train, is so sophisticated that for now, the standard for me is deep understanding. And of course, AI, I translate it very different, by the way. I say augmented inquiry, which is it adds up to our curious mindset, which I believe is all here in the audience.
Well, absolutely augmented, because when I wrote my first notes and thoughts on this, I actually ran it through Claude, the other kind of big chatbot.
Who's Claude?
Claude is like ChatGPT, and Claude's comments to me were like, well, those are very thought-provoking ideas. Maybe we can make them more nuanced and moderate. Like, thank you, Claude.
Wow.
So, definitely augmented.
Yeah, because you told me about it last week. So
Yeah.
Claude is your
sidekick.
sidekick, eh? Yeah.
Like
Nice.
Batman and Robin.
Nice. Okay. No. Hey, and my second standard is life, and with life I mean what we all try to do as a researcher is to have the context, the frame of reference. And in my work, I often take clients to the real world, to the student houses, to kindergartens, to wherever the target is coming. I think that is so rich to experience that I believe that that can be very hard for machine learning. Anyway, so my two standards are love and life, the real life.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very, very insightful, especially for the kids' business. Sometimes asking questions is not possible. You need to observe the behavior, and this is essential. Does AI can observe the behavior today, maybe tomorrow? So slowly moving to the next topic, because since we're discussing today the tension between online, offline technology and humanity, so what type of the standards we have to preserve, or we would like to preserve, that are very good today when it comes to offline? So, and what would it be, these standards? Maybe Linda?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, when I looked at this question, I did actually struggle a little bit because I wasn't certain that actually we'd all agree with what the fundamentals of offline actually are. For me, I think that the most important and first thing is the human relationship, and it's basically people talking to people. Now, we talk about offline, and obviously I talk about CATI and CAPI because these are things that I'm involved with. But even though web surveys and online research, it's so easy, it's so cheap, it's so fast, it cannot replicate the kind of intimate conversation that goes on between two people talking to each other. Now, whether that's face-to-face or on the phone. And I really think that has to be preserved. I also think it's something of a misnomer when we talk about offline, because it isn't. It isn't actually offline. It might be that the respondents are not on the internet, but certainly we use technology to assist with all of our offline research. And I think the real skill is to choose the right kind of technology that can properly leverage your researchers. So the technology should assist and leverage what they do rather than try and replace it. So obviously we automate the way we deal with our CATI workforce, because a lot of people can employ a huge number of interviewers, and that takes a lot of management. We obviously automate how we make our calls, because otherwise that would take a very long time. And also we can look at using AI. But how are we going to look at using AI? Where is it sensible to actually use AI? There is something that I think we can use AI for, and it makes a great deal of sense. We should use it where it makes the job of our people easier, and as I say, leverages their skills. So one of the obvious things for us is to look at quality control on the calls that are made. This is something that anybody that does CATI has to offer, and at the moment they might do QC on maybe 30% of calls. this is actually quite labour intensive, okay? This involves skilled supervisors sitting there, going through the calls, looking for key things, finding problems. Now, we can use AI for that. We can do it on 100% of calls and flag all of the calls that are actually of concern. So they might be of concern because maybe the GDPR notice wasn't read properly, or maybe there are long silences that would suggest that maybe an interviewer's not doing what they should. Or maybe there are expletives, you know. These things, unfortunately, can happen when we have interviewers talking to real people. And AI can pick up on all of these and flag it for the supervisors so that only those calls that have issues need to be looked at by a human. Now, this seems like a really sensible use of AI to me. There are other things we could look at doing with AI. For instance, we could use voice bots. We can use voice bots to do the very first bit of a call. So it can actually read the GDPR statements, go through all the legal notices, and it can also qualify the respondent. Is the respondent qualified to actually undertake this survey? And if the answer is yes, then either that respondent can be transferred to a live interviewer, or an appointment can be made for another time that's suitable for the respondent. Now, this is great. I like this idea. But would it actually result in better research? Will it result in more completes? Will it actually save money? I think the jury is still out on that, actually. I think we might lose quite a few respondents. And I think with AI, just because we can do something doesn't always mean that we should. And certainly from the cost implication side, if you look at countries where salaries are not so high, it doesn't add up. You know, use people. Don't use machines to do jobs badly that people do very well indeed. It's the direction of travel. It most definitely is. I think we're in an industry full of people that are clever enough to not actually throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think we will most definitely leverage the human skills and the people talking to people skills with judicious use of technology to ease the way. That's it.
Thank you very much. It's very, very thoughtful and very deep point of view. And since we have the representation of different industry, I would like to, Esther, share your point of view. Can you please share what do you think about the offline and what do we need to preserve when it comes to the best practices? I think we have lots of things to preserve, but super curious to listen to your point of view.
Yes, thank you, Linda. You already said a little bit what I wanted, not completely, but I really wanted to talk also about human touch, and then specifically in healthcare, because in healthcare, dealing with specialists, nurses, patients, it's all about trust, because these people share their ideas and opinions, and they really need to be comfortable to the people they actually speak to. So if they speak to a machine, it will be completely different. And I think they will not be that open for the research. So perhaps I can give you some examples why healthcare professionals and patients actually participate in market research. Some people say it's because of the money, but it's not only because of the money. For healthcare professionals, it's every year. I think it's more difficult to contact these people and recruit these people. So you really need to know why these people want to join the research, and so the topic must be interesting, but also. Why they join, because they like to share their ideas, their opinions, not only with the researchers, but also with the with their colleagues in healthcare. In the end, they all have the same healthcare goal. And then for the patients, it's all about emotion. The people we interview are often very ill, terminally ill, and why do they want to share and why do they want to participate? It's because they want to contribute, they want to make medications, whatever, they want to make it better for the patients in the future. Sometimes it's too late for them, but not for the future patients. So I think knowledge is power, and so I really think you should approach the respondent in the right way with the right methods. And I just want to say one thing. I think if you keep the traditional way with a moderator interviewing the respondent instead of a machine, I think it is good because every interview is unique. So all responses are different, and if you have a real moderator, they can refer to their answers, and so I think that would give better results in the end.
Thank you very much. I think that we touch very sensitive topic, like can machine demonstrate empathy and evoke trust? And this is exactly the question of your industry in medical care. So slowly moving forward, so I would like to ask a pretty tangible question about when exactly machine methods will fail to deliver very strong results. So Sylvia, do you want to start?
I repeat the question to see if I hear you well. Can you repeat it?
When do automated methods fail?
Aha, yeah, okay. So Elina and I thought about it together. We were brainstorming. But sometimes you can say that honesty or valid answers can be an issue. Huh? So our human brain is so well trained by looking at eyes, looking at body language, that a human interaction can be very important for valid results. What do you think, Elina?
I think there's, what we were talking about is, for example, interpreting emotional subtleties. Many people here will know that there are various tools that claim to measure emotions from, let's say, facial expressions. But the problem is that this approach has been criticized by people who specialize, whose career it is to actually study affect and emotional expressions. There are many cultural subtleties, all of those things, but the problem is that the algorithm can only recognize, it can only look at the things that it's been told to look at. It cannot question the material that it's been given. So, fair enough, it can get very good at finding certain types of microexpressions on faces, but if the training data is based on certain nationalities or certain types of emotional expression, for example, I'm from Finland, and if I compare myself to an American, if a Finnish person says, yeah, that's not terrible, that's the same pretty much as an American saying, that's awesome. Okay, so if it depends who's developed that technology, how are they expecting people to react? What is an expression? Like, it is a very American thing to smile with your mouth open. Finns don't do that. That's
why.
It's actually considered like if you're smiling with your mouth open constantly, it's a little bit like, that seems a bit insincere, like you seem weird. But it's a very much a cultural, like there's research on this that emotional expression, what is desirable, what is ideal affect is different between cultures. So imagine that many of these companies originate in North America and trained on that data. There's a cultural hegemony that gets embedded in the technology. And because it's technology, it suddenly seems objective. But it's not. It's a product of what we put in. So this is exactly the cultural context understanding is very human.
Yeah. But why can't machines learn facial expressions? It's already possible. So
they can.
I don't know.
They can learn the facial expressions.
Yeah.
But the facial expression doesn't always correspond to the emotion that people are experiencing.
Yeah, I see.
It doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah.
So the facial thing, like the fingerprint or the expression, could be very different for different people for like anger, joy, whatever. So you can recognize something, but does it correspond to a specific affect? That's a totally different question.
I'm sure that technology would be evolving and many things would be possible, but what you're pointing out is very critical, like cultural differences, and that's why we are collecting norms and we are creating benchmarks and we are not comparing the results directly between markets, because exactly as you pointed out, awesome for American is very good, but quite a good things might be good for other countries, like, or vice versa. So it depends on the cultural codes that we have to give a thought before we start making the conclusions. So it seems that so we are debating, and maybe now, like listening to you, it seems that we can kind of land at the sweet spot that maybe the combination of the old and the new might be the good compromise, at least for the nearest future. So Esther, so what do you think about the integration, the new and the old techniques in order to drive, and you already actually mentioned that in your previous answer. So what do you think about the best way to integrate old and new?
Well, I do not think nowadays we can be without AI. I mean, we talked about the whole conference. We talked about AI, so I don't think you can just skip that. You cannot skip it anymore. But I think you should choose the right method, which gives you added value to the study. So don't just choose AI because of AI. But just think of the added value for the actual study, which method you choose. I think with yes. Can I just tell you a few things? Yeah.
Sorry, no, carry on. It's just without a mic, I wouldn't be able to join in at all. So.
If you do use AI, I think you need to put it, think of it wisely, and I think it's for when I think of qualitative research, it's quicker in some things, in the discussion guides, in the transcripts, etc. So definitely would be good to use AI for that. And actually, then you will have more time for actually the real interview, the real human interview. Because nowadays, I think the clients always want everything to be quick. Even recruiting a respondent, it always needs to be quicker. But if you just have some more time, you can actually search the right respondents with the right, who match the right criteria. So if you can. If AI could help with all these time-consuming tasks, I think it would be really good to combine it.
All I wanted to add in really is that I really don't think there's a choice to be made. There simply isn't. It's not a case of old style offline and new style online and AI. I think all of the larger, quite good research agencies are currently looking to blend all of these methods. And basically as technologists, it's really our job to try and remove the technical barriers to them actually being able to get respondents from many different sources, all on the same survey, okay? Because yes, face-to-face, CATI, will definitely reach some people. And in some markets, like sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, we wouldn't be having this conversation because there is no online, let alone AI being used in things. Everything is still very much face-to-face and CATI. And this is where we need to really, I think, put some of our efforts into making it easier to really genuinely produce blended surveys. You know, complex, well-structured, designed surveys that use data collection from multiple sources and sample from multiple sources. And that I see as our job as technologists. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much for your opinion. Obviously, we can debate and the time will fly forever. It seems that there is no answer and maybe we don't need to answer today. But I'm holding back myself from answering pretty tangible questions since you are all women executives reaching pretty solid results in your career at the time when we are trying to close the gender gap. What do you think about the role of the woman in the research community?
Okay, so what I like about AI is artificial intelligence, but how do we define intelligence? It's all the logic, the rational part. Yeah, am I correct? Like maybe when machine learning or language models was developed, it's about the hard skills. So what about our qualities, our superpower, our what can we bring to the business? And I think it's obvious what I'm going to say now, but I will share anyway. The whole intuitive, emotional, relational intelligence. It seemed that our brains as female researchers are better wired to have those soft skills and maybe better understanding. I hope we can bring that and keep on bringing that. Do you agree? Do you agree?
I actually disagree.
I know.
I actually disagree a little bit. I kind of get a bit of a shudder when we talk about soft skills, because although it's pretty, I don't disagree that there are systemic barriers for women in many, many industries, including ours, I'm sure. But we have to be really careful that we don't evoke stereotypes of what it means to be a woman, because actually there are different ways of being that, and I'm ADHD and autistic, and I have spent 20 years, my entire adult life, trying to pretend to be a proper woman. Seriously, I've tried that my whole life. But the thing is that for neurodivergent people in particular, I'll use as an example, it is not easy to fit to those gender norms. Soft skills, like relational things, like I don't approach conversations the same way. I can cosplay it because I've studied women and how to be a woman and play it as a role, but that is not how I operate. So it's if we have very, very strict stereotypes, gender stereotypes, that is not inclusive at all, because diversity, we need diversity, but diversity is intersectional. We also have a very, very white industry. We have also a very Western heavy industry. There are a lot of different perspectives are missing, and you can see that in not specifically in research, but I'll take an example from tech. Emotional, like the facial expressions, is very, very dangerous when it's been developed by a certain group of people, white men. Because the way it's being used, it can identify people incorrectly if the tone of their skin is not the same as it was trained with. So we can, without realizing, we can imbue biases into our research because if the tech is developed by men, there are perspectives missing, clearly. Like, go back to BMI as a very basic example, developed based on white men 200 years ago. And now that's excluding everyone else. So, diversity.
I tend to agree with you that actually diversity is not about filling the gaps or about the classification. It's about acceptance. And you can be, and you can kind of express yourself the way you like. And this is a very thoughtful. And thank you for sharing that. So we have nearly 6 minutes to close the panel, and I would like to ask you the last question, because I'm sure that many people would be watching us online. So what type of the advice you will give to young professionals, to senior managers, to the leaders in insights industry? So what would be the one line that you want to be remembered with when people leave this session and go somewhere else? Who wants to start?
Oh, okay, short straw. Okay, it's a bit more than one line, but always remember that honesty and integrity are not optional extras, okay? That's your starting line. I think authenticity is the fairy dust that we can sprinkle over all of the work that we do. It's what makes us special. And I would say never, ever be frightened to ask for help when you need it. is a great thing. Always ask.
For me, thank you, Linda. I think for me, I would like to have some advice to think yourself. So always think yourself. So don't let the machines do it for you, and learn from it, because you always need to keep on learning. And the other thing is, sorry, it's the second line, it's quality over speed. I think you should always put quality first and then speed.
Thank you very much.
Better world starts with better understanding, and we're all different. So let's keep on giving this understanding to our clients.
Fantastic.
And I first, to build on what Esther said, that just question things. Question where certain ways of doing, where they come from, like the example of BMI, but then also that, you know, in our industry, why do we do things the way we do? Keep asking those questions and dig deeper to kind of evaluate where, you know, go all the way to the beginning. But more broadly, I would say that the biggest piece of advice I would say at this point is to look outside insights. Look outside to things like service design and customer experience. Those are adjacent areas to our industry. They have largely no idea that we exist. We think we're the center of our universe, but actually there are a couple of industries that are sort of just hovering outside, and they do a lot of the cool stuff we want to do, but they don't have the same skills that we do. For them, research is like the extra little bit that anyone can do, and they don't know that we exist. We don't know they exist. So I think it's like, look outside of what we do for new ideas, for fresh thinking, because that's where they are, not inside our.
Very exciting. I think that the technology is not even near future, it is today, and we have to evolve with the technology. And I'm sure that people would not be replaced, and this is my point of view, just to bring it into the panel, that people would not be replaced with the technology. So research manager would not be replaced with the technology, but research manager who is effectively using technology would replace the research manager who is not using the technology, for sure, because that's all about the smartness, integration, and driving the progress and being part of the progress. And obviously, like bringing in, like my advice when it comes to one line, as we discussed the speed and the quality, there is a possibility to apply different principles, and you can choose where it's possible to go much faster with the low level of quality when the risk is lower, and when it's required to proceed with the very reliable solutions to predict the important data that supports the decision-making process. So thank you so much for your active listening, and we have nearly less than 2 minutes for any questions. So anyone who wants to ask the question, I will bring the mic. Anyone? Yeah?
You remember we talked about how it's kind of a quirky insight that when we were preparing for the panel, we actually used chatbots to kind of, you know, give us new ideas and kind of question what notes we had, which is, I think, a nice twist on what we were doing. That it was literally human and technology working together for this panel.
Fantastic. So anyone wants to ask a question? Any opinions in the room? Maybe confrontation? Maybe you disagree with something? Okay, so they're showing me that time is running very fast. Thank you so much for your attention, and please enjoy ESOMAR Congress. Thank you to be with us today.